Well, I've got good news and bad news. How about that bad news first? The bad news is The Mandalorian has come to an end, at least its first season. There will be another season, and that's part of the good news. But the even better news was it was all pretty damn good, which is a rare thing in these days for anything concerning Star Wars. So, a satisfying ending to this first season with still some unanswered questions. But unlike another saga in Star Wars, these questions will be answered. The promise of it being answered anyway, in another season of Mandalorian. So, a wise decision, as I suspected, to keep it just at 8 episodes. Even though, yes, of course, I'm left wanting more, but that's also a good thing, provided they can, depending on how long it takes them to do the next season, if it's with a regular order and they're hot on the work on that, then that should work out, because otherwise interest can fade if you take too long to get to it. But on the other hand, I don't want them to rush anything. But the big worry throughout Mandalorian was, where is it going to mess up? And there's little bits and pieces here and there that was somewhat concerning, but nowhere near disaster of what we've seen before with Disney Star Wars. So right now, Mandalorian now takes Rogue One's place as the best achievement of Disney Star Wars, is the Mandalorian series. So we still don't know if Baby Yoda is indeed Baby Yoda, which would mean he's a clone, which seems the most likely, especially with Imperial people involved in this and wanting to use him and probably seeking his power. And yeah, I'm assuming they're going to have to bring midichlorians back into this. And maybe they'll expand on that a little more and give it a better explanation than we've had before. But that doesn't really bother me. It's part of the ongoing plot. It is canon within the series, so you make what you will. And we have more interesting aspects of what happened after the Battle of Endor and the environment that the galaxy now has, where you still have remnants of Imperial people basically being roaming criminals at this point. But they're up to something, And other unanswered questions is we got, it was pretty obvious about the Mandalorian himself. We got his name, which I am now blanking on, which is really terrible. But he was a child during the Clone Wars, and we got some Clone Wars more expanded look on the scene in which his parents were obviously killed, or were they? Yeah, I'm hoping they'll keep it at that he lost his family in that battle, and he was rescued by Mandalorians, and that's another interesting aspect. I'm hoping that we'll get some more details on that, because in the prequels we saw where Jango Fett was the template for the stormtroopers, and he was clearly under the employ the bad guys there, and working with the people who manipulated the whole separatist movement, which of course were the ones who deployed the droid army. And so apparently they were attacking that planet or that community for whatever reason, and then here come the Mandalorians to fight against them. So it's an interesting aspect there as to what that was about, and even a few lines of dialogue could clear it up, so maybe they'll address that at some point. But anyway, that's where our hero became a Mandalorian, and he was taken in by them, and it also explains his point of view here, and his feelings on the whole matter concerning Baby Yoda, is that when he realized his target was a child, and then there he was that child at one point himself, and who saved him? Well, a Mandalorian saved him. So here he is, he's gonna save this child, and for all intents and purposes, Baby Yoda is now his son. So a little bit more just lines of dialogue between him and his chiefess, amongst the remains of his tribe, which was completely wiped out, unfortunately, and she's all that's left. But she does give explanation and reference to the past war between the Mandalorians and the Jedi. And he's like, oh, he's an enemy then, you know. Well, not really, you know. And she, because he doesn't know anything about the Force or any of that stuff, and she only has a brief knowledge of it, but she tells her, yeah, there were some kind of sorcerers, you know. And so, and I think that the idea of this being a clone has more credence in that this baby Yoda just happens to know it's with the Force and everything without any, you know, teachings or anything. And so this might be a bit different than just another creature of Yoda's species being born and just happens to know it has the Force, you know. I would think that would be a little bit better, that somehow, some way, somebody got some DNA from Yoda and decided, hey, let's recreate a guy who was really powerful with the Force. And so that's what they were going for, and trying to somehow scientifically crack the code on that so they could make use of that power to restore the Empire, which appears to be possibly the plot here. And you can imagine that when the Empire collapsed, you know, there's suddenly you've got different governors and whatnot claiming they're the new emperor, and all that type of thing can happen. And so that's probably the case here with our real villain, who was only revealed at the previous episode and now in the last episode, Gus Fring. No, he's Moff Gideon. And the Mandalorian is familiar with this person, and he certainly had knowledge of each member of his little group there. Of course, with Creef Karg or Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed, he would have been well known as the guy running the guild and all that sort of thing. But then he also knew Gina Carano from being a soldier in the rebellion and everything. So he knew it quite a bit. But most interestingly enough is that he knew who the Mandalorian was. And we'll see what the backstory is there. It's probably more in-depth stuff for the further season. But Mandalorian has an almost death scene, and for a second there I thought, oh, this is it? This is where he's gonna pass his helmet on to Gina Carano and she'll be the Mandalorian, you know? But no, he survives, not because Baby Yoda heals him, which is what I was expecting to have happen, because, well, you know. And but no, it's IG-88 now, briefly IG-11. And it's a cool scene. And I mean, of course, the dialogue is predictable. You know, is that no one can see me with my helmet off. You know, no living thing. And, well, I'm not alive. So he's like, oh, yeah. So he pulls Mandalorian's helmet off. And surprise, it really is Pedro Pascal. Yes, it is. And so he heals him. And it's he thought he was done for. I'm dying, go, leave me. And all I'm gonna die like a warrior and all this stuff. And then he just sprays him into your face. So it's pretty good. And then who gets the heroic death and who really gets redemption? And for me, sadly, it's IG-11. Yes, he had to sacrifice himself. And it's too bad, because there were some good go-betweens there, and he has this little team formed there, and I want to see more of that in the future. And we'll probably get it. I'm sure the other characters will return at some point. He needs help or what have you. And, they'll make up his little team. But and maybe they could get another IG unit or something like that now that he's overcome his hatred of droids, which we understand why he had it, because the droid army wiped out his community and his family and all that. So, but now, I mean, some of that where he's like, that if there was any weakness in it in this particular episode is like, I think they kind of went a little too far where he's telling IG to, no, don't do it. You know, he didn't want him to destroy himself, but it was really the only shot they had to escape the stormtroopers. So, yeah, I'm gonna miss him, you know. but it was the only way out, and so they did. And then finally, he's earned his jetpack, and he puts that into use. And So there you go. I would have thought the chiefess was going to die, but she managed to wipe out the troops. And I mean, at least that if you say, oh, it's another female badass and all that sort of stuff. It's pretty believable within the confines of the scene that she could handle that. And then even at the end, she's kind of looking around like, holy crap, I just did that. So, and boy, man, a really brutal scene where she smashes the face of one of the troopers. It's pretty quick, but man, his helmet just shatters and everything. So anyway, all very good stuff. And then, of course, Moff Gideon being particularly wicked and taking them on with his TIE fighter. And then, of course, the jetpack came into use. Now, some of that, and there's always these scenes where you have the guy, like, he grabs onto the outside of an airplane or a helicopter and, like, nah, you would have fallen. I'm sorry. It was I mean, I know it's space-age technology and whatnot, but it was just his little Batman grappling hook thing. But anyway, he got the better of him. And then the big reveal, the dark saber, which I've heard of, but I'm not all that familiar with it. I do believe it does involve the Mandalorians and whatnot, but there it is. He's got it. And boy, there's another story that's all these goodies that it's teasing for the next season for you to come back for more. And yeah, I'm gonna have to come back for that. So it's just so refreshing to have something good about Star Wars, and this is it. So can it save it overall? Boy, they've got a lot of repair work to do, and I don't know how you salvage a Skywalker and all that, which is the heart and soul of Star Wars. That's where it started, and it always will be, regardless of what other stories you go on to, which you certainly can do, and it was expected they would. But you really needed to take very good care of that, and Disney just didn't. And so I don't know. But Mandalorian is a fine series. And again, the genius in it is its simplicity, just a space cowboy. And they pretty much stuck to it. And so very well done there, Favreau and Filoni. Very good. And yeah, these guys should be in total charge of Star Wars going forward. It's probably too late, but those are proven good hands for the franchise. All right, good series. Do check it out. I do highly recommend it. And so there you go. Mandalorian, for the most part, saves the day. Yeah. Thank you for watching and listening. Say, why not like and subscribe, and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores that have plenty of goodies for you, as well as my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com, and check out that other video platform where you can watch my videos, BitChute. Yes, subscribe to the Mr Nailsin channel on BitChute.com.